What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, which is that I actually have a very, very special guest. Tommy is somebody who's actually worked on over 300 video games, won awards for his work in television. He's somebody who basically started a lot of stuff that we know and love in the industry today, but now he's working on a very different style of project, which is that he's actually bringing back Intellivision to work on a console. So, Tommy, hey, how's it going?
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. I've been watching your videos for almost a year now, and I love your stuff. I reached out. I had to contact you and talk to you because I'm a fan of your work as well.
Well, thank you, thank you. So, when Tommy reached out to me, he said that I could ask him any questions I wanted
Right.
about the new Intellivision console Amico, and he said I didn't even have to give it to him. So I decided to brainstorm what I consider 6 pretty tough questions. So, are you ready, Tommy?
Yes, the tougher the better. I want to head on,
Okay,
hit them
good,
to
good,
me.
good. All right. So, number one, what is the goal of the Amico? And what I mean by that is when I think of things like the Nintendo Switch, it's trying to be a console experience that's mobile, or the Xbox One X, it's trying to be the best console graphics. What are you trying to do with the Amico?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So the whole concept is that, I've been in the industry 30 years, and most of all the video games that are made for home consoles are made for hardcore gamers. My dad can't even turn a PlayStation 4 on. In fact, it took me a while to figure out where the damn on button is.
Mhm.
The controllers are very difficult. They're intimidating to non-gamers and casual gamers. And so what I want to bring back, I'm 50 years old. When I grew up, there was no such thing as a gamer. Why?
Mhm.
Because everybody played video games. And so when I think of my childhood, I think of playing Intellivision with my mom and my dad and my brother. So these local multiplayer experiences is
Mhm.
what I remember the most about playing video games growing up, and that feeling of of family and friendship. And even in the early 90s, like when things like GoldenEye
Oh yeah, yeah.
were out, 4-player GoldenEye, like some of my best memories as a gamer are not playing on my own, but playing with a group of people, having really close games with each other, like, oh my gosh, and being able to play with not just hardcore gamers, but being able, like, I want to play video games with my dad again.
Mhm.
I want to play video games with a 10-year-old and not have to sandbag. And so the goal of Intellivision, that's what amico means, friend in Italian. And so we want, that's the whole concept, is to bring this whole idea of friends, family, getting together, enjoying games, and for non-gamers and casual gamers to be able to pick up a device like they did 12 years ago with the Nintendo Wii, to
Mhm.
bring in gamers into the experience, because all of the casual and non-gamers now, where are they playing games? They're playing them on mobile. All
Yep.
of the simple games are strictly on mobile now. And so mobile gaming, though, is a very, very solitary experience. It's
Yeah.
you and a cell phone. There's not a family of four sitting around in a living room all playing a mobile game together. I'm sure there's one or two exceptions, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the majority of all mobile games are you and your phone. And so we want to bring that sense of, like the Nintendo Wii brought, where grandparents were playing video games
Mhm.
with their grandkids and this and that. Now, where Nintendo, I feel, made a slight I don't want to say, you can call it a mistake, because they knew what they were doing and they would admit this as well, is that when the Nintendo Wii came out, the third biggest selling console ever of all time, 103 million units sold, they caught lightning in a bottle.
Mhm.
They did something that was so smart, because they had to pivot, right? PlayStation and Xbox were kind of kicking their ass, let's be
Yeah.
honest, at
Real
that
bad.
point. So they had to like pivot and they came up with this whole concept of, of the Wii controller and all this. What that did, they caught lightning in a bottle, because my mom has bought 2 video game consoles her entire life. Christmas in 1980, she bought our family an Intellivision. And 12 years ago, when she was in her late 60s, she bought a Wii for herself. You probably have friends and people who non-gamers who bought a Wii, some of which still play the Wii, right? Yeah. And they were non-gamers. But where the kind of disconnect happened, look, Nintendo is a $40 billion company for a reason. They're very smart and they cater to their audience, right? The audience of Nintendo fans who grew up on Super Mario and later who bought the DS, who always consume with an amazing Mario, Zelda, all these incredible things. But when Nintendo Wii came out, they went right back to their wheelhouse of, okay, let's create another Pikmin, let's do another Mario, let's do Super Smash Brothers, they weren't making games for my mom, because that's not what they do, right? Mm-hmm. They kind of left that to all the third-party people. So when you look at the numbers of the Nintendo Wii, what you'll find out is that a lot of the majority, I don't want to say majority, but a big percentage of people paid $249 for Nintendo Wii and never bought a game.
Yeah, they just the attach rate was pretty weird, yeah.
Yeah, well, it wasn't weird because my mom wanted to play bowling, right?
Yeah.
But then after that, again, there was Wii Sports Resort or Wii Sport, but they weren't catering to, Nintendo wasn't catering to the non-gamers. They continued catering to Nintendo fans.
Okay then, so I gotta jump into question 2, which Please. Is then, so my thing here is that I am a super hardcore gamer in every sense of the word. I beat about 60 games a year just trying to review them and stuff. Since you keep talking about cell phone gamers or mobile and casual gamers right now and trying to bring them over to a console, what do you have to say to people like me? Because think about it, my audience is probably the most diehard people who probably buy 8 games a year. What is in this for them?
Right. That's a great question. So just to be clear, all of the games that we're making for the Amico are not just, I hate the word kiddie games. We're not making kiddie games. Just because a game is easy to understand doesn't mean it's a kiddie game. Would you call Donkey Kong, the original Donkey Kong, a kiddie game? Would you call Pac-Man a kiddie game? No. It's a kiddie game to me is like all these
Hello Kitty, yeah, got it.
Hello Kitty and shit like that, right? Now and again, it's not to say we won't. Yes, that'll be some of it, but it's not what our what the whole thing. Oh, we're just doing kiddie games. Not at all. So we're just saying when we say family friendly, we don't mean dumbed down kiddie things. We're just talking about things that are super easy to pick up and understand. For example, you don't know Jack as an example, right?
Yeah.
That's a trivia game. It's not a kiddie game, but it's an easy game. Let's call it maybe, I don't know, a casual game. I don't know how you would categorize it, but bowling, baseball, shuffleboard, card games. These are all games that are not kiddie, but maybe open themselves up to a wider audience. That being said, look at like 2D shooters like R-Type, a game like Moon Patrol, a game like Night Stalker. There's going to be a ton of games that hardcore gamers are going to enjoy as well. Now, are they going to be like Red Dead Redemption 2 or Spider-Man or Call of Duty? Hell's no. That's not. We're not trying to compete with that, but if there's a simple, fun game that you can play with your girlfriend, significant other, if your parents came over, if friends who are non-gamers came over your house, are you going to spark up Destiny 2? I highly doubt it, right? So what system, when your friend, let's say you have a group of 5 or 6 friends come over and 4 of them are non-gamers. And you want to get together and you want to have some fun. What do you do? Well, maybe you'll break out Pictionary. Maybe you'll play charades. Maybe you'll play a card game, whatever it is, right? But people aren't playing video games anymore because, again, you put and by the way, I love the Xbox and PlayStation controllers. Personally, I love them. But when you put those into a non-gamer's hands, dual analog sticks, strafing buttons on the top, buttons
Mm-hmm.
here and there, you have to understand that for somebody who isn't into that, it's very confusing.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. Yeah.
It's overwhelming. That's a perfect word. I'm going to use that. It's overwhelming to them, and so that's the whole idea. Is that so? I'll shoot the question back to you. Wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
it be nice for you to have a system in your collection when all of your non-gamer friends, no matter how old they are, or let's say your niece comes over, or that
Mm-hmm.
you're able to play games with them and compete with them without having to dumb it down or without having to like sandbag.
So right now the Nintendo Switch has really fit into that for me. So I think a smart part about the Switch specifically is that they put in the motion controls, and I think a
Yep.
lot of kids, a lot of younger people now are used to the idea of like cell phone games where you tilt it. So the fact that they can just tilt a Mario Kart controller. So
Yep.
this really steers me into question 3 then, which is
Sure.
how do you plan on carving out a space in the market? Because let's
Yep.
face it, I feel like a big reason that other indie consoles like the Ouya and it looks like the Atari VCS, a reason these aren't really gaining traction is the fact that they don't really have their own space that they're trying to work in, and they don't exactly have the budget to compete against Nintendo and PlayStation. So what is your strategy here for trying to carve out a piece of the pie?
It's a great question. So the first thing is that Nintendo Switch, my mom isn't interested in buying a Nintendo Switch.
Mm-hmm.
You can't give that big controller and big portable device that you just
Mm-hmm.
showed, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to take that. I want you to put that into a non-gamer's hands and say, "Here's Breath of the Wild. Go for it." Right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Like, all right, Grandma, don't break any weapons.
yeah. And so does the Nintendo Switch have casual style games on it? Yes. Do people buy it for that? No. They bought the Nintendo Wii for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But people aren't buying the Nintendo Switch to play casual games. Why? Because it's not really marketed like that, is it?
Yeah.
It's marketed for Breath of the Wild, for the new Mario, for boom, 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 boom. Now, you go into the store, and what Nintendo, and again, who am I to give Nintendo advice? I'm not, but what I'm just stating facts here is that the Nintendo Switch store has become a wasteland of mediocrity. Like there's like where do you get where did
Well,
quality
well,
over for
I,
quantity?
I would highly disagree with that. And the reason I'm stopping you right there is what do you
Yep.
mean by that specific? Because I feel like they've gotten a lot of ports lately, but I would say that overall, the average Nintendo game is still incredibly high caliber. Even if it's just third party, I think stuff like Golf Story, which is like an indie RPG, or even like the Doom port, I think they're good. I understand what you're saying though, of like to an
Too
average
much. It's too
consumer.
much.
Oh yeah. Well,
Too
the
much.
eShop, yeah, they're wading
Well,
into an ocean.
that's what I meant. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Where what I'm saying when I say quality over quantity, I'm
Mm-hmm.
meaning, would you rather have a machine that has 30 games on it and all of them were great, or
Mm-hmm.
would you have a machine that had 200 games on them, or sorry, 2,000 games on it and 100 of them were great, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the thing is that like mobile, we're seeing it with Steam as well. When
Oh
you
yeah.
have like these open systems where anybody who learns Unity can or game maker can like be a game developer and upload a game. And again, I'm not saying that those games can't be fun and can't be this and that, but when you have so much quantity, it's hard for the quality to stand out. So and we know this is a huge problem. You talk to any Switch game developer right now
Oh
and
yeah.
they
Yeah.
are in panic mode. They are in absolute panic mode. It's not that their games suck, it's that how do they stand out from this crowd of again of there's a lot of mediocre stuff, there's a lot of good stuff, but there's too much of it. It's not being curated.
You bring up such a great point that I feel like a lot of my viewers don't know about this. A lot of general gamers haven't heard this yet, but a lot of indie developers right now are in panic mode because right now we're in a time where so much creative and different and unique stuff is out there that just being good is sometimes not enough anymore.
Not
like
enough.
when you're fighting on a storefront with 100 front page items and you're number 99, it's hard to sell a copy. So
Absolutely. And all of these places, all these indie developers we're talking about, they don't have marketing teams. They don't have marketing budgets. They don't have PR people. And so why we're so different, because a lot of kind of negative feedback about Intellivision has been like, oh, they're not going to get developers to publish for them because it's only E for everyone titles. And the price point is so low on the games, and they can't port. Oh, who the hell? What developer would do that? Look, the reason why developers are creating games for the Switch, the PlayStation, the Xbox, Steam, and mobile, one game on all those platforms, is because they can't make any money on one single one. So they're forced to try to get the scraps from wherever.
Yeah, cast the wide net. Yeah.
Exactly. What we're saying is the opposite. What we're saying is, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pay you for your idea to create your game. We're going to pay you. You have zero financial risk. We're going to pay you to bring your awesome idea and creativity to life. Don't worry about where the money's coming from. We'll do that. We'll pay you for that. Okay? Now, in return, we want you to make this game the version. So when I say no ports, I mean no direct ports, right?
Yeah, you were just saying. Okay.
Yeah. So you create this game for us, right? You make it unique to our system, okay? And then here's the deal with Intellivision, is that every single one of the games that are on our system, we are paying for, we are curating. We're a part of your team now. We're going to give you all the resources, the money, the talent if you need extra talent. We're going to, because this is a game that we want our system. If we've chosen this game to be on our system, we're going to put everything we got, and that includes marketing. So here's the big thing. With Intellivision, there's never going to be a time where two games come out at the same time, ever. So what that means is, if you're a dorm room developer, let's say you got 2-3 guys in a room and you've created something really special, how are you going to compete with EA for marketing? You're not, right? And so what we're saying is, dorm room developer and EA, they're on the same exact level in our eyes. So when your game comes out, we figure out the date that your game is going to come out. Your game is going to be the number one thing that people see every single time when they turn the machine on and they go to the store. Your game is highlighted for 10 to 14 days, and no one else is being released, nothing else. You are the star of of that 2 weeks.
Okay, but will that end up limiting the overall store volume, the game selection?
Yes.
Because that means at most you'll have 52 games a year, but that's the goal, is to just have less games that are 100% awesome.
Absolutely. Look, okay. Like you just said, you do this for a living and you play 60 games a year, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So what I'm saying is, if there's only 40 really awesome games on there, I'm good with that. You know, we're not trying to, we don't want 1,000 games on our system. We really don't, unless there are 1,000 epic games, but that's, let's be realistic. If we can put out, 30 to 40 very high quality, above average. And again, don't think of this as like, oh, it's just going to be like a mobile game. No, it's not. It's going to be much more than a mobile game, but much less than Call of Duty. Right? Somewhere kind of in the middle, those kind of like Cuphead or Journey or, those kind of experiences that they're not like 50-hour epic things, but, something that's kind of in the middle.
I feel like a lot of people don't realize that there is this interesting low tier of development games that are super fun that go unnoticed. I played this one and it was a cell phone game, which people usually hate, but it was called Dynamite Jack, and it played a lot like Metal Gear Solid in that you were sneaking around, but it's just literally just a top down. It's basically just one little character model. You're seeing him from above. Very simplistic, incredibly fun. I was just trying to sneak around and basically hit a series of switches and set off ridiculous dynamite, but as basic as it appeared, it was really, really fun. But it was one of those things of like, man, I wish this was on some console. That way I had an actual controller in my hand.
Right. And what if it had like a 4-player mode?
Yeah.
And you had 3 friends over? Now you've created an amazing experience. See, one of the things that people have to understand, and maybe this just happens with age, I don't know, but when I play Red Dead Redemption 2, and I spend 10 hours, let's say, playing, I kind of feel guilty a little bit because I could have went outside, I could have went for a hike, I could have spent time with my family, I could have read a book, I could have learned a language, I could have put a shed up out back. When you're younger, you don't care, right? When you're younger, it's like, yeah, I'm going to play video games. That's, but when you get, the older you get and the more responsibilities and the more people that are in your life, you don't have 50, 60 hours a week to dedicate to playing Spider-Man or God of War 4. Right. And so you kind of, as you become older, you kind of start to get this a little bit of guilt feeling because you're in front of the computer all day when you're off work. Now, that's a guilt feeling. But when you're spending time with your family, if you're playing a game and it's with your wife and it's with your kid, well, and it's with your friends who you haven't seen in a while or whatever, it's a completely different experience. Now there's no guilt. There's like, I spent time with my family today and we had fun doing it,
So I got 2 really big burning questions that I want to end this with. And one of them being, I'm excited that you're talking about this. I'm glad you're coming on the show, but why is Intellivision coming out now if the console is supposed to be released in 2020? The typical way they do this is most people like to try and announce a console within 1 year of when it's going to be on store shelves. So this seems a bit premature. What's the thinking behind that?
That's a great question. So there's a couple answers to that question. The first thing is that we want the other 3 to know we're coming.
Okay, yeah.
Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. And again, I'm not trying to compete head to head with them, but we need to telegraph, this is our date, guys. So if they're smart, they're going to go away from that date, right? They're not going to release it on the same day. They're not going to even probably release it in the same quarter now, right? So it's to telegraph to the others what we're up to, okay? Because God forbid, like I'll give you a really interesting example of this, because you're like, you're what are you even talking about? You think you're bigger than you are.
Yeah, I'll be honest, that did cross my mind. I was being like, that's some big talk.
Okay, so answer me this question then. Isn't it interesting that a couple of weeks ago we released our trailer and it showed our touchscreen on the controller? Okay. On Friday, Sony filed a patent to put a touchscreen on one of their controllers as a potential for a PlayStation 5. Now, I've been in the industry 30 years. I know lots of people. I have lots of, I don't want to call them spies because that seems that's underhanded. I have a lot of friends who work for a lot of companies. I can tell you that they reacted to our trailer. Right. And
that you think that they patented just in case they want to enter that space later of like, well, if they're doing that, let me go ahead and put our piece on the board.
Yeah, because and again, it wasn't that they were trying to crush us or anything like that, but they wanted to ensure, if Intellivision has certain patents about a touchscreen on a controller, we need to make sure we write ours. If we want to do that, we're going to write ours. And if you read the patent, it's putting a screen between 2 grips.
Hmm.
right? So, which is very different than the Intellivision controller. We don't have grips on ours, right? And
Hmm.
so that's the kind of thing that look, all these companies pay attention. So, but that's the minor one. The biggest reason why do you telegraph 2 years out is because we want to get developers, talented folks interested in creating games for us, right? See, we're
Yeah.
different than Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo in that everybody knows who they are already, right?
Hmm.
So what we need to do is that our dev kits are going to be available for the end of spring, beginning of summer of 2019. So
Hmm.
that means in order for people to start developing for us, let's call it June of 2019, let's say, right? So
Hmm.
in order for them to get those dev kits in their hands, how many? Okay, so we need months to talk to people, to meetings back and forth. Oh yes,
Hmm.
we like your product. Let's sign a contract. Let's start to get you money. Let's start to sign NDAs. But all that stuff takes time. All that legal stuff, the money stuff,
Yeah.
all
Oh
that
yeah.
stuff.
Slow.
So when June comes around, we're already raring to go, and boom, they can start developing right away. Now, that being said, I can tell you that games are already being made for the console within the specs of our chipset, but the final tools for 2D, the final tools aren't there, but they can certainly start creating the gameplay. They can start creating the graphics to a certain extent. They might not know what effects they're going to put on just yet, but they can
Hmm.
start to create, the things that make the game. That's already being worked on by a lot of folks. But so that's why we telegraph, is because we're lining up developers and signing deals with developers and signing deals with big game publishers and signing deals with big licensors as well.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
big movie licenses, big titles like that. And so we need to show, when you're the underdog, when you're coming out of nowhere, you need to show that people are generally excited about this. If we put out our trailer and 5,000 people clicked it, well, what confidence does that show at all?
Hmm.
Instead, if you look on our trailer and you look at the thumbs up as compared to the thumbs down, look at the difference.
Hmm.
Geez, I mean, not even Blizzard was able to, with Diablo, was able to, you can see how important it is, right? That
Yeah.
important
Yeah.
it is. Where was it 30,000 down thumbs and 1,000 up? That didn't look good for Blizzard. They delete the thing, they upload it again. The same thing happens. So it's important. Perception is very important to, in this industry, especially when you're a newcomer. Right?
Yeah.
Again, if you're Ouya, you're screwed. If
Mhm.
you're Atari VCS, look at the shitstorm now that they have to deal with before the system even comes
Yep.
out.
Yep. That whole messy lawsuit. Oh man.
And I'll give you another example. Back in the day when the Sega Genesis first came out, it was released with Altered Beasts. Now, this is before the YouTube social media era, right? Late
Hmm.
80s. It comes out, and the console, if you look at the numbers, the console was like meh, you know?
Hmm.
And then Sonic the Hedgehog came out, their big title, and the whole thing exploded. I got news for you. If Sega did that today, the Genesis would have never even seen Sonic the Hedgehog, because we live in a day and age with so many YouTubers, so many influencers, so much social media. If somebody thinks your thing sucks, and I'll give Ouya as an example, right?
Hmm.
You get destroyed online, bad vibes. No one even wants to give it a chance right out of the gate. So
Hmm.
we have to be very, very careful. We can't do what Sega had the luxury of doing 30 years ago, right? They're like, they kind of
Hmm.
soft launched it a little bit. Yeah, we'll get a big game for it eventually, but let's have it come out now. We can't do that. We must have 10, 15, 20 must have exclusive games ready on day one, or we're screwed. If you look at all the best consoles out there that were successful, Sonic on the Sega, do you think people bought an Xbox because they thought Bill Gates was cool, or because they were in love with Word for Windows? Are you kidding
Hmm.
me? The reason people bought the Xbox Wasn't because of Microsoft. Gamers hated Microsoft, in fact. The reason they bought it was because of the only place where they could play Halo at the time, right?
Yep. A lot of people at the time joked that like they might as well put it in the box and be like, okay, welcome to the Microsoft team. Here's Halo.
Exactly. And you look at all the biggest console big things, whether it was Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo, Crash Bandicoot for the Sony PlayStation, it goes on and on. They all had these exclusive must-have titles that you couldn't get anywhere else. Now, flip side that and say, okay, all of the consoles that failed, which ones were they? Well, the Ouya, okay, that didn't have a must-have game.
Sega Saturn comes to mind. Sega Saturn came out with 4 games, and one of them was like a bad sports game. Nobody bought it.
You had Virtual Fighter on that too, I think.
And I think Daytona USA.
Daytona. And the same thing with like even the Wii U. The Wii, the third biggest selling console ever of all time, had Wii Sports. That's why people bought that system. Initially, a lot of people bought it just to play bowling and go Wii Sporting, right? Boom. The Wii U comes out and it tanks hard. Now you'd think that all those people would have moved over and got no. Why? Because what was the thing? Pikmin? Was that the must-have title? Was Pikmin 5 or whatever the hell? I mean, so you must have the exclusive games, and that's why we stressed it so much. Why we're stressing it so much is say, look, every game on our system is exclusive. That's a bonus thing. People should look at that and go, wow, that's really amazing. Don't give me no developers are going to develop for your crappy thing. Oh, really? Because we have tons of the most talented developers in the world developing for us right now. We'll be putting out a press release. We're going to be putting out gameplay footage and stuff because that's the next progressive step to do. People are like, oh, you're just showing drawings of your crap. It's vaporware. So let us, and the other important thing to note too, is that we have internal engineers. We're not like outsourcing stuff. This is no Kickstarter project. We have a team of electrical engineers. We have firmware engineers. We have tools people. We have system people. We are building, and these people are not cheap. These are not people making $40,000 a year. These are 6-figure salaried people, roomfuls of them, who are working on the technology, the tools, the firmware, the controllers, everything to do that.
So this brings me to my last question, though, and I feel like the biggest one that I know is sitting in the back of a lot of people's minds, which is that this talk is big, this talk is great, but what really kind of worries me is a lot of times when we're buying a console, it's an investment. We want this to be something that's great forever. Like, part of the reason I actually did not like my Nintendo Switch for a long time because I thought the opening lineup wasn't great, but it kept coming out with good games and it won me over. So my thing is, with your console being under $200, the average game being about $5, this is something that is super, super budget friendly. But I'm curious, how the heck are you guys going to stay in business? Like, what's the long-term model? That's what worries me the most, honestly, is no offense to you guys. I'm terrified you guys are going to run out of money 6 months after launch.
Right. Well, don't worry about that. We got that covered. So that's the thing. When you look at the end of our trailer, you look at the names at the end of the trailer. We have we have one of the ex-presidents of Nintendo is on our team. We have the vice president of Nintendo on our team, of marketing, of PR. So we have a lot of folks who worked at the very, very top of the industry. These are the people who helped to launch the Wii, right? So you don't attract that kind of talent, and you don't create the kind of things that work. Even the trailer itself, right? Say what you will about the machine. I don't like the way it looks. It looks like a foot massager, blah, blah, blah. And by the way, let me address that really quick. Looks like medical device, looks like a foot massager, looks like a dehumidifier, right?
I think I heard the foot massager one, yeah.
Okay, well, here's the thing. Guess what? I got news for you. The people who are buying our machine buy a lot of foot massagers. They buy a lot of dehumidifiers. So maybe, just maybe, we did that on purpose. So just saying. So somebody said to me, read a comment where it says, "Oh, it looks like something that you would buy at Bed Bath and Beyond." Right? Fair comment.
Yeah.
Here's what they're not considering. Guess where we're going to sell our video game console? Because Sony doesn't sell it there. Microsoft doesn't sell it there. Nintendo doesn't even sell it there. Why shouldn't we sell our family device in a Bed Bath and Beyond? Why shouldn't we?
Well, dude, if you can do that. So I was in the book business for almost 10 years, and something a lot of people didn't realize is that there were people who would write Christian finance books. They were basically just a normal finance book with a couple Bible quotes in there because they could sell in Christian bookstores. And they were the only finance books there. Like, if you manage to get yourself into a market where you're the only competition, like if you guys can get into places like Sears and Bed Bath and Beyond, like that would be a huge, huge boon.
Well, I can tell you without mentioning names, I can tell you we're already there. We're already there. We're already there. We're gonna surprise a lot of people with how we're going about things. When you see the celebrity endorsements that we have, it's going to be, again, these are endorsements that these are big celebrities who normally would never talk about an Xbox or a PlayStation, but the fact that we're family friendly, and again, these are the biggest names in the world for entertainment. They love what we're talking about. They love and everyone, again, some of the hardcore gamers are down on the fact that we E for everyone and E10 plus. Well, I got news for you. 85% of all video games that come out, and it fluctuates from year to year, the percentage does, but typically on average, 85% of all video games that you've ever played that come out every year are rated E for everyone already. So to say like, oh, we're screwing ourselves because we're not going to have violent games. Let me tell you a quick story. I have a neighbor down the street, about 3 houses down. They're a Christian family. They have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they know I'm in the video game industry. You probably have friends like this yourself. They know you're in the video game industry, and so they don't know anything, so they call you up and they say, "Hey, what system should I buy my kids this year?" Right? And of course, for the last 30 years, everyone's always said the same thing: Nintendo. That's what you do. Right. And so that's what I told her. I says, look, you got to get them a Nintendo Switch. They called me like about a year ago. Right. And I said, you got to give them the Nintendo Switch, 7 and a 9-year-old. Great. I get a call in March and they say, Tommy, a woman calls me up. She says, Tommy, I thought you said this was for kids. I says, it is. It's for kids. She goes, I walked in the living room and there was blood all over the screen. I'm like, what? I said, what game were they playing?
Did you buy him Doom? What the hell?
No. She's like, I don't know, this Resident Evil game. And
so
the thing that gamers don't understand is that most of, let's call it middle America if we can for a second, right? Most average households, they don't know what the ESRB is in the rating system. They don't know that you have a parental control and now you have to get into the software and you have to go into menus and turn the controls off and set a password. Look, most parents, what do I get? Nintendo. Great. They go to Walmart, they order it on Amazon, it comes to their house, they wrap it up, they put it under the tree, and they're done. They're not there sitting up. They're not even setting it up anymore. Because young kids have surpassed their parents for technology. They're hooking up the HDMI cable. Hey, Mom, we got another light pipe for the 7.1. What are you talking about? So parents don't even know that this stuff is out there. Because we're in the industry and we live and breathe it every day, a gamer might look at that E for everyone rating on our system and go, are you guys stupid? You're idiots, blah, 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 blah. But what they're not, you got to look outside the bubble. You got to say to yourself, will the average non-gamer parent like something that doesn't have DLC, that doesn't have in-app purchases, that's relatively cheap and inexpensive. And by the way, just so you know, when we say an average of $5 for the games, really, the games are going to be more towards the $7.99.
I just because y'all's press release said like $2.99 to $7.99, so I just picked a middle.
That's right. That's right. No, and obviously you would do that. And I probably made a mistake by that, by putting those numbers in, because what I was trying to, I should have put in like an average as well, because that
Mm-hmm.
scared off a lot of people. Like, oh, it's just going to be a bunch of crappy shovelware and fart apps, you know. But something that's like a 299 would be something like if we took 10 original Intellivision games, like the old ones from the early 80s, and put
Mm-hmm.
all the sports games in one package and sell that for like 299 or something. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's not going to be, most titles aren't going to be 299. They're going to be more to the 799. And again, that range is when on launch games are going to be 299 to 799. Once the system's established, you're going to start to see $7.99, $8.99, $9.99, but you're not going to see $30 games on the system. So to answer your question, though, once the system comes out, we have tons of money. We have tons of stuff stockpiled behind us. So even though, again, because quality is everything, so we're designing, we have 45 games in the works that we're going to be, but when the system launches, we're only going to put 20 of those out. And then every 2 weeks, we're going to have them on the shelves. Then we're going to bring another one.
Pull it out.
Then we're going to bring another one. Then we're going to bring another one. So we have a whole year's worth of games that we're holding back, that we're going to be releasing throughout 2021. Now, at the end of that year, at the end of 2021, if the thing is mediocre and it's tanking, then I'll call you up and say, yeah, we're in trouble. But we have, because then we would have failed. Like, you know, we have to get at least 1 million consoles in the market by the beginning of 2021. If we can do that, it's a huge win for us. And to give you an example, the Intellivision, you know, everybody talks about the retro systems now. You know, it's the NES Mini and the SNES Mini and the PlayStation Mini and all this stuff. To give you an idea, Intellivision, we were doing that as a company 15 years ago. We did, look this up, you can Google it, the Intellivision 10, it was called, and then we did another one called the Intellivision 25. And what it was, it had an NES chip in it, and all the old original Intellivision games were put on it. And it was a plug-and-play device. It looked like a Genesis controller, actually, but you could plug it directly into your TV. We sold that at Walmart. They did 4 million units. This is before the NES Mini, before all this stuff. This is a decade ago. So when people say, you know, oh, that, you know, that's you know, no one even knows who Intellivision is. What a stupid name to bring back. Look, I'm not naive. I don't think that people are going to go out and buy the system because it says Intellivision on it. It's up to us to educate anyone under 40 what Intellivision was, what it meant to the industry. That's why the first 30 seconds of our video was talking about all of the firsts that Intellivision did. Intellivision did a lot of things 40 years ago that helped define the entire video game industry, right? It's up to us to let people know about that, right? And so yeah, I don't think that people are going to buy the machine just because it says Intellivision on it. You know, we need to create a system and an experience. But one of the things Intellivision did was it was a family device. A lot of families played together. We're carrying that over. The flat controller, it wasn't aggressive. If you put an Atari joystick, which is 8 directions and 1 button, and if you put that joystick in my mom's hands, even though it only has 8 directions and 1 button, it's an aggressive thing. It's a complicated thing, because when you
think even that's too much?
Well, it is. We've done market research.
Because
They have to, do I have to shake it back and forth? I'm not good at that. I got my hands hurt. I got arthritis. Exactly, right? But when you give somebody a flat surface, not a bunch of buttons, something that they can just touch, or a disc that they can just go up, down, left, and right, it's a whole new world for somebody. So again, for the folks saying like, oh, the controllers suck, I'm going to give you a world exclusive right now. Are you ready for this?
Yes. All right, I'm buckled up.
I have never shown this in public online, but I have a bunch of them actually. But I have a 3D printout of the controller. Okay.
Okay, cool.
And so I've never shown this before. So this is an exclusive. So this is, by the way, this isn't the final. This is just one of them. We have a whole bunch of different designs, the curves, how much does this curve? What does the inside, how much is this is carved out? What do the buttons look like? How are they? So this gives you, the reason we do these 3D printouts is so that we can kind of feel it in our hand, and so when, as the guts inside are being made, we can say, oh, we're going to need so-and-so millimeters more like this. And so we have to make that to make sure, everything's cool on it. But this is what I wanted to show people is that, so this is the Intellivision controller, the way people know it, right? And they're like, oh my God, that's going to suck. There's no D-pad, no buttons, blah, 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 this and that. So let me do this. Let me blow your mind. Are you ready? Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Let's do this.
Boom. There's your D-pad.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so like this, right? Your D-pad's here, and now the screen, you can map any kind of button combination you want, and it doesn't have to just be a little circle. It could be the whole side of the screen. If you have two buttons, you could make this side one button and this side the other. But here's another thing. Ready? Blow your mind again. How about like this? So now now the disc is the biggest button ever on any controller. It becomes the button, and now your screen, your touch screen, becomes the way to control the character. Well, so let me give an example.
I just want to say, wow, that's really interesting to me, because I feel like it can provide a lot of different variables to aiming and stuff. For different games, I feel like the way you play really kind of gives you like almost a tuning of options.
Absolutely. And so here's the thing, like take a game like Centipede, for example. Now, a Centipede was a roller ball and a button, right? So when you had to roll back and forth, so if you rolled all the way to the left, oh shoot, now you got to roll all the way to the right, right? And your arms would like literally be tired after you played an intense version of Centipede. Now imagine this, where your thumb is, and you can direct the place wherever you want to go just with your thumb. So people, you don't have to look at this screen. You're looking at your TV, and wherever your thumb goes, you're moving that character, and now this big button becomes your fire button. So so this is completely tiltable, by the way. So it tilts all the way like a D-pad, like a normal D-pad on a Xbox or whatever, right? So it's a tiltable thing, but we can now configure this to any time you touch it, no matter where it touches, that becomes the fire button. Think of a game like Robotron. Robotron had two joysticks. One controlled the guy and the other controlled where the person shot. Well, think of this now. If you're controlling the guy with this, wherever your thumb moves, the guy's going, and now wherever your thumb goes on that, that's the way he's firing. All of the 2D side-scrolling platform games, I'll give you an example, a game I worked on, Earthworm Jim. In Earthworm Jim, when you have the D-pad on this side, so you controlled the D-pad here, right? That's how you controlled Jim, and then you could fire and you could jump, right? So here's the thing, though. When you would fire in Jim, when you hit the fire button, now this D-pad, you had to, if you wanted to fire up, down, left, and right, the character had to stop.
Oh, yeah.
You had to stop, because now you're firing, and now you want to go, and fire all over the place, and then you would keep running. But with a control like this, you could actually keep running, and wherever your finger went is where he fired. So you can run and fire in any direction at the same point. So I guess my point being is that people look at this and go, oh, you're going to have to hold it like that, and that's going to suck. But you have to make sure. That's why we put the accelerometer in there, the gyro in there, and everything. is that every game is going to be unique. Some games might hold it like this, some like this, some like this, some like this. It's whatever you want it to be as the game developer, and it opens up a lot more. But again, just think of this as a big D-pad with programmable buttons, and it's going to have the haptic feedback. So, you know, and here's the other thing. Sorry, one more thing. I'm getting excited here. Is that when you hold it like this, the buttons on the top, they become buttons as well.
Oh yeah.
So they're like the top buttons. And so in the drawing, we had these little tiny. This is the one from the drawing. If you can see that, these are like these little buttons. We got rid of those. Those are crap. The buttons now are all the way down the side. So when you hold it like this, it's the whole side of the controller. It's a big giant button that comes. So yes, you can use it like this, but you can also use it on your side like that, right?
And I sort of have these. This is one of those custom SNES controllers, and this sort of has that where the control they almost feel like they wrap a little bit. So it's like a more extreme version of this. That's awesome.
Exactly, and I tell you, one of my favorite controllers is if you look at the Saturn controllers and the remember the Genesis one that they did with the 6-button Genesis controller.
Yep.
One of the things that I loved about Sega is that they had their buttons where they were a little like they were indented like a little dish.
Yeah.
Whereas all of the buttons now, like look at the Xbox control and the play, they're like the other way.
Yeah.
It's like, why is that comfortable? You know, and so I always loved what Sega did when they cupped them in a little bit. And so that's what we're doing with our buttons there. And these buttons on the side, they're not soft analog crappy things like the original Intellivision.
They got that click to them.
They have a click, like you would click a mouse.
Yeah,
you know,
I love that, man. I love that.
Exactly, because we don't care about analog stuff. Analog stuff is great for the PlayStation, the Xbox. You want the harder you press, the harder you want the engine to go. We're not doing games like that, right? It's on or off, and I want to feel a click when I hit that thing. So a lot of controversy over these controllers, but it's because people aren't understanding 100% how they're going to be used. And I get that. I'm not saying, they're idiots. No, we just need to educate folks more. But at least I want to start to do it now so that people don't write us off. All I'm saying is, look, before you write us off, here's all I would ask of anyone. Play the thing. That's it. Just play the thing. I'm not kickstarting. I'm not Indiegogoing. I'm not like the others. Right? I'm not asking you for money before you get a chance to try it out. So at least give us the benefit of the doubt with that. Sit down when the thing comes out, when you can start to play demos of it, maybe, summer of 2020, play it. If you have fun with it, then great. And if you don't, then you can drag me through the dirt all you want. So that's all I'm saying is the reaction. And by the way, I understand. Gamers, because they've been let down by the Ouya, the ColecoVision, the Coleco Chameleon, the way Atari VCS has kind of run their campaign. I understand that gamers are like walls up, wary of anything new. I get that. I totally understand. Look at the trail of crap that's happened before we made an announcement. But does that mean that we're in the same boat as those guys? Again, that's why I thought it was so important at the end of our trailer. Look at the people on our team, right? You look at the game. We have the producer of Metal Gear Solid, the producer of Tekken, the producer of Castlevania. He's on our team, Jason Enos. We have the president of Nintendo in America, the guy who did Wave Race 64. Yeah, he's on our team. We have the people who launched you worried about marketing? Great. We got the 2 women who launched the Nintendo Wii. Marketing and PR. So, anyway, I should shut up. I get too excited and I take over to I apologize.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you for your time and thank you for the exclusive. This has been great. And I really got to...
Stan Lee, baby.
Nice.
Stan Lee, props to Stan.
I gotta hail you, man. I really respect you. You're one of the first developers who's really just let me grill them. Honestly, you've earned my pre-order for sure. Like, I was pretty on the fence because the original details were pretty loose in my opinion. I just didn't have a concrete grip on it, but now I understand what the heck the Amico is. I get it. I get it, man.
And one of the hard things too, though, is that from our perspective, we have so much information. How do you put that in a single press release or a single, it's tough. It's really difficult for us. So that's why I feel that talking to folks like yourself and others, I think are super important because, I have a single voice, but I can't get out there and talk to millions of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, somebody like yourself and all the other guys that are out there who have a voice, if you can understand, if I can explain to you about what it's like and what it's about, and so that people can maybe reserve judgment till they have a chance to play it. All I'm saying is give us a chance because we're not crowdfunding. We're not asking for your money beforehand. So, hey, keep an open mind. That's all.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much. And I look forward to the next big updates. It's been a blast, man. Thanks.
Absolutely. Look forward to playing Intellivision with you soon.
Yeah, heck yeah. Well, thank you everybody for watching. If you enjoyed this or you have any really pressing questions, just do me a favor actually and leave them in the comments down below and I'll make sure that Tommy sees the top ones just to make sure that, really at this point, they seem like they're very open to feedback. So your ideas, at the very least, they can help give you some concrete answers to the things that are probably burning your brain. This has been great. You've been awesome. And to everybody watching, keep dreaming.